Kick us off today?
Yes, I'm here, Al. Shane
Oh,
Force.
ding. Shane.
How's it going, guys? Hope everyone is safe and still healthy. Hopefully you're getting better, Al.
I am better.
Good, good. Well, yeah, just wanted to keep everyone posted on the mortgage end. Rates are in a good spot, still in that low 3 range for a 30-year fixed, high 2s to low 3s for a 15-year fixed. I mentioned I did a Facebook Live on the Bergen County Partners page this weekend, and a lot of lenders are eliminating cash out refinances. So if someone is going to combine a first and second mortgage, or if they just want to refinance and take a little money out, a lot of lenders, Wells Fargo is the most recent large lender that said no more cash out refinances just because of market conditions. So if someone is looking to take money out of their current home or combine 2 mortgages, now's probably the time to do it because it could be going away for a while. So a lot of companies are having trouble just with liquidity and getting to the closings. Like I have two closings right now with Bergen County Partners Realtors where we've been delayed for over a week, just waiting for other transactions where they are not ready to close. They haven't gotten title or, verification of employment. The mortgage companies are just really struggling to get things done at this point. Atlantic Home Loans, we've always dealt directly with Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac and FHA, but we're doing it now more than ever because it skips one step, the correspondence step. So it has been helping us tremendously to just close loans efficiently. And this week will be one of the busiest closing weeks that we've had in like 3 years, just because of the combination of loans that were closing prior to this and refinances. So it's just a busy time, and the end of the month, everyone wants to try and close then. But definitely, whatever we can do to help your clients refinancing and purchases. I just ran numbers for a past client of a Bergen County Partner Realtor, and ran numbers, and we were saving them like $293 a month on a 30-year fix. So it looks like something they might do, and a lot of people seem to want to decrease their out of pocket in a time like this and kind of keep cash on the side if they can.
Sure. Awesome. Well, thank you for that, Shane. Does anybody have any questions for Shane? Anything at all? Speak now. This is a giant in our industry. Don't pass up the opportunity.
I will hang out and just mute myself, and if you need me, let me know.
Okay, great. Thank you, Shane. We also have a couple minutes with Marc from Alpha Moving. Is Marc on? Elise, are you on?
Yeah, Marc is on. I think he might just be muted. Let me just, Marc?
Yeah, I'm here.
All right, there you go. I unmuted you. You're good to go.
Hey, everyone. How are you? Just wanted to talk a little bit about the Alpha Moving, what we're going through right now. And first of all, I want to thank Catherine, Natalie, Stephanie, everyone at Keller Williams that helps with the vendors program. You guys are all amazing. Your support is just truly fantastic. And thank you all for all the help that you give us throughout the year and getting us in front of the agents and, talking about our product and our service. Right now, obviously, we're going through very difficult times. We're probably down about 75% in our business, and that's due to A, the lack of moves, and B, the lack of manpower. So we see a tremendous drop in the amounts of moving, both in New Jersey and New York. And the manpower is not there because the guys really are afraid to go out there, God forbid, get sick and then bring it back to their families. So these are the two issues that we're having right now with our industry. As far as what we're doing to protect our clients and our movers, we're following strict CDC guidelines. We're supplying our guys with face masks every day, hand sanitizers, gloves. We're disinfecting our trucks in the mornings and again in the evenings. We're also asking for social distancing within the apartment. So we're doing everything possible to protect our workers and our clients to be safe and healthy. Uh, I thanked everybody that helps out with the vendor program. I want to thank you, the agents. You know, we've been part of the vendor program for about a year now, and I just want to thank you all for trusting Alpha Moving and Storage with your clients, with your clients, and it really means a lot, the relationship that I have with Keller Williams and that Alpha has with Keller Williams. And a big thank you to all the agents who have been recommending Alpha Moving and Storage to their clients, and I thank you all from the bottom of my heart. And that's pretty much it. That's what's going on now. We're hoping things get better as time moves along, and I'm sure it will. And I'm sure you guys are having a challenging time as well, as we all are. But hopefully we'll go through this together, and things will get better with time.
Sounds good. Well, thank you for being on, Mark. Does anyone have any questions for Mark? Any questions about movers and whether they're essential, whether they're still working? I think we covered that, but
yeah, we're still working. We're considered an essential service as a mover, but again, the business is just not there. People are not moving. We're seeing business with houses, but not so much apartments. You know, the apartments, people are extending their leases. The building management is just extending their leases. A lot of buildings in the city are not allowing movers into the buildings at all. So it's a big obstacle right now.
got it. Okay. All right. Any other questions for Mark before we go? All right. Thanks, Mark.
Thank you, guys. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. All the best to you and your families. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you. You too.
All righty. So who's helping me? Is Elise or Chris? Who's helping me run this?
I'm here. It's Kat.
Kat? All right.
Yeah.
When I talk on my end, I hear like feedback, but as long I can deal with it as long as you don't hear it. Do you hear like my
Nope.
voice echoing?
Nope, just hear you normal.
Okay.
Good, Al.
Well, I'm never normal, so. All right, let's see where we are here. All right, I put together a little presentation and I wanted to share with you guys. Please feel free to stop me. And what I'm hoping you guys can participate and maybe even help me read some of these slides. So, so maybe we can unmute some people that normally share, so that it's just not me talking straight for 45 minutes. Can you guys read that slide there? I can't see what you're seeing.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, we can.
Okay, so I want to start out with a little big picture stuff, but I think when I get on a call or when I go to a class, my big thing is what's something that I can get out of this, write down a note and go and implement it today, you know, some kind of nugget, so that everything is not, you know, big picture kind of airy-fairy. But being that sort of what I specialize in, big picture stuff, I did want to talk a little bit about that stuff, but I'll kind of rip through that stuff and hopefully get to the stuff that I think will interest you guys more once I can figure out how to page down. Why can I not page down?
Al, there's like 2 arrows at the bottom.
Oh,
If you
okay.
put your mouse over the screen, 2 arrows at the bottom left, you'll be able to click to the next one. You see them there?
Okay. So my version of the 3 L's, they're not Gary Keller's, are a little bit different that I wanted to cover. I think the 3 most important things are learn something every day, lead generate, and leverage. So I've covered this before. I'm going to rip through it a little bit, but I think the most important thing you can do in business and in life is be learning based. Learn something new. Never, you know, think you know it all. They're just saying, you know, spend time with people who know they don't have it figured out, and beware the people who do think they have it figured out. So you want to be an eternal learner. The smartest people in the world, Einstein, Benjamin Franklin, you know, towards the end of their lives, they talked about how, you know, they knew less than they did 20 years earlier. So if you think you know it all, you're sorely mistaken. You know, no one does. You know, the more you learn, the more you realize there's so much more to learn. But there's also never been so much information out there. So you can literally pick a topic today and say, I want to be, what I'm going to talk about is doing business by referral. I want to be an agent that does business by referral. You can go and get a book on doing that. Google the top 5 podcasts on that. Go and talk to somebody who has success on that. And in 2 weeks, you could be an expert on that. And then after that, if you want to be an expert on CrossFit, you can do the same thing. So you could learn anything you want. So there's, to me, the benefit of what you learn, and maybe the more important side benefit, when you feed yourself with positive stuff every day, even if it is just about CrossFit or something unrelated, it's going to motivate you. Learning just kind of gets your juices flowing, that you'll be better at your job rather than just sitting there. So just get up and learn something every single day. Lead generation, I won't spend much time on it. We talk about it all the time, but it's simple but not easy. Some of the best people, that I talk to in our company that have 20, $50 million businesses barely lead generate at all, or they lead generate for an hour a day. Even those people, imagine what their business would be like if they went from an hour of lead gen to 3 hours of lead gen. When I first started, my very first year, I did about 5 hours a day because I had nothing else to do, and I did it religiously. And then after that, I was able to let up on it. Then the third L for me is leverage. I think you need to hire an assistant, even if it's a VA or somebody part-time. The minute that you can afford it, the more time you get stuck doing $15 an hour tasks, the longer it's going to take you, to make serious money in this business. So hopefully that makes sense. Trying to get down to where I changed. Boy, I'm getting old. So like I said, I won't spend a lot of time on this. This is more the big picture stuff, but the number one habit of learning, I've shared this with a lot of people before, but there's a study that's often cited in all different books. Keller Williams always cites it. This guy, Tom Corley, did a study of 177 people that were financially successful. They had over $3 million in the bank, and same number of people who were unsuccessful, less than $5,000 in the bank. And it was crazy, the difference. 88% of the wealthy group read for 30 minutes or more per day. Only 1 in 50 or 2% of those people with $5,000 or less in the bank read every day. So, if that doesn't tell you something, the most successful people read every day and spend time upgrading their skills. So this I'm really going to run through. I'll email this out if anybody wants it. These are just some of the books that I found most impactful. I'm not going to just read through the list, but if anybody wants it, just put it in the notes and I'll email it out to you. I would say, the book that changed my life is called How to Win Friends and Influence People, and followed closely by both of the Tony Robbins books. And then from a business standpoint, the book The Advantage is the best business book I've ever read. Same thing with the podcast. I'll just mail this out. I won't go through them all. My favorite is At the Table with Patrick Lencioni, because it's all about team building, which is what I spend most of my time on. So Dale Carnegie has lots of principles, and I'm almost done with the big picture stuff. This is a book that changed my life. And I wrote down some of his principles. The one in red, I'll read. And I changed it around a little bit, like my thinking behind it. But, they talk about being genuinely interested in other people is the key to success. And it can't be flattery, because people can see through that. So it's very easy for me, this thing. I love to do it because I love to learn about other people. It could be, I could be talking to a guy who sells nuts and bolts from Omaha, but that's still much more interesting to me than talking about myself, because I feel like I'm watching a brand new movie I've never seen before. I've already seen my movie. Like, me telling people constantly about what I do is boring, because I know everything there is to know about me. It's boring as hell. So A, it's boring, and B, no one really wants to hear it. When you want to influence other people, you have to listen about 80% of the time and talk about 20% of the time. There's a saying, that's why God gave you 2 ears and 1 mouth, that kind of stuff. For all these other things here, I think are helpful too, but it's not. The goal here is to give you actionable stuff and talk about referrals. So I'll keep going. Does anybody have any questions so far? I kind of can't see everybody in the way. Is everybody able to see the presentation?
Yes, everyone can see it. Everyone's just really asking for you to send this out after.
Okay, I will. So here's something that I see a lot, I think, in today's society. One of Dale Carnegie's famous quotes is, "Any fool can criticize, condemn, and complain, and most fools often do, or most fools do." So, nobody wants to hear you criticize, condemn, or complain in real life or social media. Sure, you're allowed to do it with your friends and your family, but if you think it's going to be interesting or get you sympathy from other people, it doesn't. It's I put in here somewhere, I read this somewhere, but it's true. If you have a cold today, or even if you're worried the 5% chance you have the coronavirus, that means more to you than hearing about 100 people dying in Africa later today. So if people are that self-centered, what are the odds when they have to worry about, are they paying their bills? Are they losing their job? Their kid is sick, that they care about you telling them about losing a listing or having car trouble? People just, your best friends you can commiserate with, but in business, put on a happy face. You can be honest, but just be upbeat and don't bother people with, your petty complaints and concerns, and don't criticize people. When you criticize people, 99 times out of 10, they just dig in on their side and it gets worse. So my favorite quote is, adversity introduces you to yourself. It's not what happens to you, it's how you deal with it. Everyone in the world has adversity in their life, so don't let it limit you or define you. So this is something that I heard when I was a kid. Not adversity introduces yourself, but this concept of this card game. So if we imagine everybody here is playing a card game, right? And we deal out the cards, and each card is a problem. So there's however many are on this call, there's 50 people playing cards, and everybody's looking at their hand, which are their own problems. And they're going, shit, I got a lot of problems, right? And then we say, okay, everybody put down your hand and show everyone else your problems. 99% of the time, you'll take your own problems back when you see what everyone else has going on. But we self-centeredly walk around thinking, I'm the only one with problems, and you want to get the benefit of the doubt or the break from other people, but you don't give other people that benefit of the doubt, when a lot of times you'll find out they're going through something much worse. So give people that benefit of the doubt. Most people on this call are having a harder time than I am and a harder time than you are. They also call it the fundamental attribution error. So if I'm being a jerk to you, I say it's because I had a bad day, my son's sick, I had coronavirus. If you're a jerk to me, I attribute it to you have bad character, you're a horrible person. So why not give other people the benefit of doubt, that I give myself? So what's this? So yeah, this is, so for people keep saying most of the agents here don't know me. So for agents that just think I'm this old guy who, comes and signs the checks and blathers on about books, I put together like a little, timeline of my business and of BCP. I promise it'll only take a minute. I just have to switch to a different document. Can you guys see this?
Yes, we can.
Okay, so it's a little timeline I put together. So I was born in 1968, and it sounds like I'm going to go on for an hour. And I say, well, I was born in 1968. So from birth to college graduation, I had the easiest life in the world, no adversity. I grew up an arrogant, egotistical guy. I was a bit of a jerk, kind of the people that I would hate today. I was all about me. I didn't care about other people, but it served me well. Life was easy, and I didn't really get dinged for it in high school or college. I don't know why. No one ever called me on it. I had lots of friends, and I had a great time. But when I graduated from college, I started in advertising. Then I took a job in sales because I saw how much more money these guys in sales were making. Is there a way to annotate? Can you see my mouse or no?
Yes, we can see your mouse.
So I'm on 1991. So I graduated college. I took a job. My second job, I left an ad agency, which was a great job, and went to a printing sales job. And I was selling a lot because I was a decent salesman already. But when I brought the business back to the printing shop, my stuff never got done because I was still an arrogant jerk. And as soon as I handed them, hey, I have this, we need to print 500,000 catalogs, here's the order, I went to the bottom of the barrel, behind everybody else, until this older sales guy said, you're a nice kid, but, you're kind of a jerk and you're kind of arrogant. Read this book. And I can remember I was in New York City in a laundromat, and I read How to Win Friends and Influence People literally in one day, and it changed my life. Like literally, if I read that, it was a Saturday, I was a different guy on Sunday, and I realized like life's not about me. It's all about other people. I became so much nicer, so much happier, better boyfriend, made me a better father later on. So talking about adversity a little bit. So life went on. I took a job at, I left the printing company and I decided I wanted to get into software I knew was doing well and technology and Wall Street. So I wanted to find a company that was doing both. So I went to work for an internet company, an internet startup that serviced Wall Street with the hope of being part of an initial public offering in the height of the dot-com boom, which I did. We took the company public. It was great. I had a few good years of that. And then both my son and my wife got diagnosed with very serious illnesses. I took a leave of absence from that job for literally a year. And out of that year, if there's 365 days, I probably spent 240 days. I slept in Beth Israel in the doctor's lounge. That's how sick my son was. He was a normal kid, and he's a great normal kid now. But in the interim, he lost the ability to walk, lost the ability to talk. It was the hardest, time in my life. Eventually, I had to leave that job completely and find something where I could work from home so I could care for my son. So I decided real estate was something I could do from home. The funny thing is, I told my mom about it. That's why I have, if you can see the little crying symbol, I told my mom that I was become a real estate agent, and she started crying because she thought they were all unethical, and she thought I had this great job. I was a senior vice president, and now I was a realtor, and she didn't want to tell her friends because she didn't think it was like an honest living. So I was already feeling bad about changing careers, and my mom was now not only not proud of me, but sort of embarrassed of what I was doing. So got into real estate and started taking the class in 2004, got my license in 2005. My first full year in real estate was 2006, and I did $20 million in sales. I hired an assistant within a couple months. Because I had success building a team, which most people weren't doing then, I kept getting offers to go to other companies. And eventually a company called Marion Gilday came to me and said, look, if you'll run our Ridgewood office and manage it, we'll literally give you a third of the company. You don't have to pay for it. So I'd only been in the business a few years, and now I was a third owner of a company that was successful and been around for years. So things were looking up. In 2010, I left Marion Gilday to start Keller Williams Market Center. That opened up in 2011, and that's when things really started to pick up for me. And I can't thank people really took a leap of faith, to come with me. And some of those people I'd really like to thank are Anna O'Callahan, Mike Shetler, Lisa Sammatero, Colleen, Sally. So some of you that say, I have this reason that I can't do lead gen, or that reason, during most of this time that I was growing these businesses, I had gotten separated, eventually divorced, and I had 100% custody of my kids for most of that time. So I was raising my kids with a little bit of help from my mom, or maybe a lot of help from my mom, but basically raising my kids alone, running the market centers, running my real estate business. And I was still at every dinner, every baseball game. I didn't miss one thing ever. By 2011, I joined forces with Pam Christian, and our team in 2011 closed over $50 million. Come up to present day, 4 out of our top 5 offices in MLS are KW offices. How did I get there? I attribute it to being learning based, doing the right thing regardless of the cost, focusing on team building, which is really the biggest thing I focus on now. And most of all, being lucky enough to convince amazing people like Colleen, like Sally, like Joanne, like Rachel, like Anna Anderson, and all the other people. I think if I have a skill, finding great people and somehow convincing them to work with me, without them, I wouldn't be successful at all. All right, so let me go back. Are you guys hearing this, and can you follow me?
Yes, still with you.
Still there? People are still on. I can't see if.
Yes.
Yes, 105.
All right, so that was that. So just for the, in case somebody doesn't believe me, I like to back up my words. This is the 2006 printout from the MLS. There's me, Aloysius Donahue, $20 million, year one. So now I'll get into sort of hopefully what's the stuff where there'll be more takeaways. So to me, working by referral is the cheapest, easiest, most rewarding, most sustainable, and most profitable way to build a real estate business. And if anybody has questions as they go, please let them ask, Kat.
Yeah.
There are many other ways, a lot of ways to skin this cat, but I think this is by far the best for many reasons. The first is, calling people that you already know and already like you is much easier than calling FSBOs and expireds. And when you're referred by somebody, typically, there's some stat, I haven't looked at it in a while, but 80% of people when they're referred don't interview anyone else. So you have a much better chance of getting the listing. And if you're not competing with other people, there's not that downward pressure on your commission. So you get a higher commission when you work by referral. So one of the things that I think our society's afflicted with, there's a lot of big hat, no cattle people out there. Does anybody know what that means? Can anybody chime in? Hopefully somebody knows. Have you ever heard the term big hat, no cattle? Anybody raising their hand, Cat? I can't see. Nobody knows?
Too many chiefs, not enough soldiers?
No,
How about somebody who's in
close.
an empty suit?
It's basically, if
Too
you
many-
think about the West, a guy who walks around with a big cat, like he's a big hat, like he's a big deal, but he's got no cattle, just a big bragger, but he's got nothing to back it up.
Yes.
So then the graphic is, the big hat guy spends all the money on Zillow leads and has a ton of volume, but he's got no cattle. In this case, cattle is profit. So people that focus on buying leads and you're throwing away 30% of their net, yeah, they're platinum. And I've gone over lots and lots of P&Ls with these people. You'd be surprised. There are a lot of $10 million agents literally making more money than $60 million agents. I can't see who that is to mute, Kat. Can you?
Yep, I got it. Just did it.
Okay. So it's not about being a platinum agent. It's about how much money you bring home. Would you rather be platinum and make $100,000, or would you rather be silver and make $300,000? That's literally the discrepancy. There are some people, that are doing $50 million that are literally breaking even because they spend so much money on billboards and park bench ads and buying leads. It costs next to nothing to do business by referral. And on a related note, I think I see newer agents make the mistake of going on a listing presentation and brag about their volume and brag about how busy they are, and that hurts them. Nobody wants to work with somebody who you think is too busy to return your phone call. So go in there, be humble, make them feel like you're the only client in the world. When you go in and you brag about how busy you are and I only got 20 minutes for you because I got to run and take another listing, they don't give a shit. They just see a busy braggart who doesn't have time for me, So make every person you're dealing with feel like they're the only one. I don't know if you can see this.
Yes.
This is my favorite sales books. It's called 7 Levels of Communication. It just talks about the value. So the least valuable thing you can do is advertising. Take every dollar you spend on newspaper ads and throw it in the garbage. The idea of, I want to get my name out there, getting your name out there does nothing for you. Direct mail, not much more. Electronic communication, a little bit better, but there are all kinds of studies. One phone call, is worth 5,000 impressions in a newspaper. Getting somebody to come to an event that you put on or attend it with you, and then one-on-one meetings are the most important. And this goes today as ever for millennials that are like, hey, I just like to text. When they survey millennials, who they do business with, they do business with people that pick up the phone and have a real world relationship with them. It's easy to text. It's hard to pick up that 500-pound phone. So how do you get started? I won't spend too much time on this, but if you're a brand new agent, go through and look, who are your family and friends? Who are your previous relationships from your old job? So when I started, I just downloaded all the people that were in my CRM from my old job, my clients, my coworkers, services you use, social media contacts, and create a list of hopefully at least 100 people. One of the things I did from early on is I used this exact list. This list is about 10 years old. And I called clients all the time and just interviewed them and asked them all these things about themselves, their favorite hobbies, their favorite magazine, were they a pet owner, how old were their kids? And I put it in my CRM. You guys should put it in Command. And it served a lot of purposes. One, when I called them, it seemed like I knew everything about them and they thought I was their best friend, and I wanted to be their best friend. But two, if I was going to meet them for something and I realized their favorite candy bar was Baby Ruth, I looked like a hero for $1 if I stopped and brought them that candy bar. Or their kids' favorite drink was Hawaiian Punch, and I picked that up. So now while we're all sitting at home doing nothing, why not make these calls and find out this information and put it in Command or whatever CRM it is that you use? What I would also do is have lunches and interview them and get all this information. And you really bond with somebody when you go through all this stuff. So I think this is really something you could have your assistant even do and plug into Command for you. But when you can call and say, hey, how was that trip to Europe last year? Or, your daughter's wedding, or how's Billy, working out at Boston College? You're not the average guy trying to sell them something. You're now, a trusted friend.
We have a question. It says, how did you do the interviews?
I did them on the phone, or I did them at lunch. I know you can't do them at lunch now, but you could do it on the phone. So one of the things I started with is what I did was letters. I did a letter every month to my database. And every month I provided what I called an item of value. So it could be anything. It could be, I'll show you my favorite thing to do on the very next page, but it could be, you could create a little book. I bound a book of all my vendors and I sent that out to somebody. That was one mailing once a month. If there was some event coming up in town, I would send out a letter about that. If there was some information around tax time, I would send out. But every month I send out a letter, and I would pay somebody, usually a kid, to hand address them, because hand address things always get opened. I was just listening to a podcast the other day, and it said the U.S. Postal Service in 2020 said the average person gets 10 hand addressed pieces of mail per year. So if you're sending one every month, you're more than doubling. They're getting more from you every year than they are from everyone else combined, and no one ever throws out something that's hand addressed. You can think about it yourself. When you get something hand addressed, is there anybody here who throws that in the garbage? No. If you are,
Also, we just had more questions about the interviews. They wanted to know if you're explicitly interviewing or mixing into your convo, and whether or not you said, I would like to interview you, like literally in quotes.
I did it different ways. I did it over the course of like some conversations, but then I would just get, intentional about when I went to lunch, I'd say, love to take you to lunch. Thank you for the referral, just to get to know you. I had this silly questionnaire that I do, and I would just literally rip through, ask everyone. So sometimes I did the whole thing. Sometimes people got bored. I did half of it. And then sometimes if it's someone, I was in an ongoing deal with, I might ask 2 or 3 every time I talk to them, So this was a favorite thing, and I think the most successful thing that we did. So we started stocking things that we knew clients needed, but usually rented and didn't keep. And then we branded them. So we put a big sticker that said, the Donahue Group with our phone numbers on it. And we would send out mailings, and we would call all the time, like, hey, if there's graduation season, we would call up and say, hey, we have, 3 margarita machines on hand. We have tables, we have chairs, do you need anything for that party? And all those things that we would give out for free would have our logo on it. So then people would have a party. Every chair had the Donahue Group on the back of it. So not only did those people, that own the house were reminded about us, everyone was saying, why the hell do you got the Donahue Group on all your chairs? And they would say, oh, I get my chairs for free from my realtor. And they'd say, wow, my realtor doesn't, help me with that. And then I would ask the people that had the party, if anybody asked about it, if I could get their name or their phone number. And, I learned this in a seminar, and they said, if you can, as dumb as it sounds, when I first say it, it's going to sound dumb, but then it's going to sound really smart. If you can get your client to connect you to margarita machines or generators, if they think of you and they think of that, which is so far removed from what you do, don't you think they're definitely going to think of you when it's time to sell their house? And they're so appreciative. So I think before Corona, and we had every one of these things on here, we had multiple margarita machines. In fact, we had another drink machine. I forget what it made. We had tons of tables, chairs. We had a bounce house that we owned. We had power washers. We had a house generator. We had a dunk tank. Some of that stuff is geared to pre-Corona. What could you do now? Maybe an LCD projector that you could loan out to people at movie night and slap your thing on there. Maybe, drop by with Clorox wipes. Those support your hero signs that are going out. Instead of asking people to pay for them, just buy 50 of them and call up your clients and drop them by. Drop by masks, drop by gloves. A generator, would still work if there's somebody who's out of power. But just think of things your clients need and just stock them and then call them periodically. Even if they never use them, it's such a nice value add. And you can think of things that I probably would never have thought of. This is off the top of my head. We had a much bigger inventory, but I couldn't find the documents from when we used to do it. My second favorite thing after, what we were just talking about, is a confession letter. Has anybody ever heard of a confession letter? Anybody feel like reading it? Because I'm getting a little hoarse. Any volunteer want to read this letter? Please? Come on, man.
Can't read it.
Oh, you can't see it?
Okay.
No.
I'll read it. I'll read it.
All right.
Ready?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, dear so-and-so, working with you in the past was really enjoyable for me, and I'm glad I could be of service. I must apologize that I haven't stayed in as close contact with you as I would have liked since then. However, recently I made a commitment to run my business exclusively by referral. I now understand that the kinds of people I want to help in the future are people just like you. The opportunities that I've had to serve referred clients have been my most enjoyable and rewarding experiences. So in order to work by referral, I intend to take even better care of you. I would like to take just a moment of your time to introduce you to a very special complimentary service that I'm now providing, my Client Appreciation Program. Every month, I will be sending information that I believe you'll find useful. The first piece explains how my decision to work by referral benefits you. It allows me to devote my time and energy to meeting the needs of my clients. There are a number of ways that I can be a valuable resource to you, such as providing market updates and referring other reputable professionals when you need them. I look forward to reestablishing our relationship. Please feel free to contact me if you need anything at all, and I am always here to help.
So what I love about this is the best source of referrals are people that you already did work with, already did a great job with. So if you had somebody, you did a deal with them last year or 2 years ago and you lost touch, sending this with a handwritten note or sending it via email, it works literally every time. I've never had anybody blow me off after that. In fact, I've got more people proactively call me and say, hey, don't worry about it. You didn't need to apologize. I'm busy too. And I would get back in touch with those people and do lots of deals with those people. The other thing, I don't know if I talk about it later in here, but one of the things I always talked about would say the advantage to you also by me doing business by referral is I'm not having to spend 4 hours every day calling random people. Because I get most of my business referred to me by people that I've done business with, I have much more time to spend marketing your house, looking for houses that you might want to see. So while everyone else is spending 5 hours dialing for dollars, I'm out there servicing you. So it's a much better way for you because I can devote a lot more time to care of you rather than just dialing like all the other agents do. Another thing you should do, and I know a lot of you have, is join a networking group like LaTip or BNI. There are roughly 26 vendors that are involved in the sale of every home. So what you do is you refer business to the very best people in their field, and then you call them up. I did a research every year, and it generally was around 40% of my business came from a handful of people, and it was usually 2 painters, a landscaper, a divorce attorney, and 2 builders. So you don't need a lot of people when you're doing business by referral. If you can get a few people that give you 2 or 3 or 4 leads a year, let's say 3, you get 5 people that give you 15 deals, in our price point is a big business already. This without everything else that you're doing. It's definitely worth your time and you build some good relationships. And if you can, if you can run the group, even better. I was the president of LaTip for 6 years, and it definitely helped me build my business. And there's a very simple script that you can use, which I'm sure you're all seeing. So if you give a referral to a painter, you call up and say, hey, Mr. Painter, how'd it work out with Mrs. Gonzalez? Great. They're such a nice family. By the way, Mr. Painter, I work by referral just as you do. Since you do such great work, I'd like to keep sending great people like Mrs. Gonzalez to you. In return, I'd really appreciate it if you give me the number of anyone you run into that's thinking of buying or selling. I promise I'll take great care of them. Does that sound good? By the way, do you know anyone thinking of buying or selling today? And it's much easier with business people because it's sort of, you're helping them, they're helping you. So I got a ton of referrals that way. It's a very easy conversation to have. This is an article that they wrote about Luke and I. That's me and Luke there. And when I first got into real estate, and what I agreed to do when I first got started, Luke had epilepsy, and I agreed to donate $500 from every deal to epilepsy, and people really liked that. And then as time moved on, I said, I'll donate it to epilepsy. That's what matters to me. But if there's some charity that moves you, I'll donate to whatever is your favorite. But people like to work with people that have a heart and are not just in it for money and give back. So one of the things that really helped me a lot was when I first started, I really focused on Ridgewood. I wanted to be the #1 agent in Ridgewood as quickly as possible because I thought, if you can do a lot of business in one place, you seem a lot bigger than somebody who does the same exact amount of business spread out over 20 different places. So I really focused on buyers, bringing them in to Ridgewood. Then I knew they would eventually be sellers. And I did everything I could to connect them. So, when I went to lunch with one new buyer, I brought in a buyer who moved in 6 months ago. So they became friends. And I connected them anytime I could so that there became this network. In fact, they, for years, had parties they called Foles parties, Friends of Al parties, that I stopped going to after I stopped selling real estate. But these Foles parties went on forever. And those people, kept sending me referrals because I was the center of the network. I was the one who connected them, all to each other. So I was a common bond between these groups of friends. So whenever, somebody moves in and they have a young kid, you call them up and say, oh, you have a son the same age who's, going to play baseball this year. Susie down the street who just moved in, maybe you guys can have a play day. Oh, your husband's in finance. I just, moved in a couple who the wife is in finance. Maybe we can all go out to dinner, and develop some great relationships that way. Social media, one of the things, I just heard someone talking about the other day was a great idea is they have, these things where you could go online and just send a picture and have them make a puzzle out of it. So what if you went to your top 20 clients or prospects, pulled a photo off of Facebook, that you liked of their family, sent it to the puzzle place, and then dropped off that puzzle gift to them? How cool would that be? Another thing I think is everybody comments on birthdays and they all, get lost because everybody has 500 comments. Instead, look at the Facebook thing every day. And when you see a client's birthday, don't text, don't send messenger, don't comment, pick up that phone and call them. That's a way to distinguish yourself. Again, face-to-face is best, phone is next best. Nothing else comes even close. And then I would say spend less time posting and more time connecting. Use time on social media to compliment and acknowledge your clients. Comment on a life event, a great game by their child, or anything at all. People like people that are interested in them. It goes back to Dale Carnegie. So bragging about your own accomplishments, there's some room for that. But instead of an hour posting about your new listing, if you spend an hour going to every client, seeing something they posted and say, oh, wow, congratulations on that promotion. Oh, I can't believe Bill got accepted to University of San Diego. Wow, that's a great dress. Whatever it is, you're building a relationship. Just broadcasting, hey, look at me, in front of my new car. Nobody really gives a crap. So use Facebook to connect, or Instagram, not as a broadcast medium, but as a connection medium. Can't do this anymore, but when you are able to, I got tons of leads from my client parties. I hosted big client parties every year. We had, piñatas, multiple slides, dunk tanks, multiple bounce houses. And, I was at the age where my kids were young. So I invited, all of my clients, anybody they wanted to bring. And then I just took the flyer and went like 5 blocks all around my neighborhood and invited the whole neighborhood. We would get, hundreds of people there, and they all knew me and hopefully liked me. So they were all talking about me and why they were there. And, I'd wind up with 5 or 10 referrals at every client appreciation party. So it was the best money ever spent. I would definitely encourage doing that. And what I would also do is, my very best people, anyone who gave me more than 3 referrals in a year, I would take them out to a dinner. And then again, that was creating a social network. If there was maybe 5 of them, I go out to dinner a few times a year with the people who referred me most, and those people became friends. and I still, do business with them today. One of them is, our top contact at Columbia Bank, who's Sean Bradley. So most of these people I still stay in touch with and still help me in my business today. I don't know how many of you are familiar with pop buys. We sort of covered it, but everybody loves a gift. So create some kind of small gift. Today it could be wipes, sanitizer in normal times. When barbecue season comes up, a set of barbecue tools, whatever. Just, drop it off in the days when you can talk to people, bang on their door. If they're home, chat with them, and give them this small gift. If they're not home, leave it with a little tag. Some of these are like some cheesy taglines you can put on there. I rarely use the cheesy taglines, but it definitely helps. People love getting gifts and they remember you. It's one step above the thank you note. And then speaking of thank you note, again, back to, the post office saying people get 10 hand addressed pieces of mail a year. What if you were 5 of those 10 or 10 of those 10, you doubled it. And it's very easy. When somebody does something nice for you, send them a thank you note. Send your clients thank you note. Send the people on the other end of the deal a thank you note. Send your dry cleaner a thank you note. So these are some, just some ideas of who you could send notes to. So like I said, I had a strategy when I started. I don't know if it would work now with open houses, but I looked at it as I wanted to be known in Ridgewood, not because I cared so much about Ridgewood, but I just thought if I'm going to get 10 listings and I have 1 in each town, no one's going to know who I am. But if I have 10 signs up in Ridgewood, I'll look like I'm an established agent. So I fought really hard to get listings on busy streets where people would see them and try to get as many as I could in Ridgewood. Then what I also did, which is the part I don't think you could do, I bought like 30 open house signs. So if I had 2 open houses, I would put like 10 out for each open house. You're probably not allowed to do that anymore. But then people would say to me, man, you're all over the place. What do you have, like 20 listings? And I had like 2, but because I had open house signs all over the place with my name on them, they thought I was much bigger than I was. And it almost worked. That's my first year in the business. Marilyn Becker crushed my dreams and beat me soundly by a couple $1 million. But for my first year in the business, I think the strategy worked. So I think maybe the most important thing is treating your referrals right. You got to train people to give you referrals. So when you get a referral, immediately send a handwritten note and some small gift card, whether the referral is good or not. Doesn't matter if it's the crappiest renter, in a town you never want to go to, because the next referral, if you treat them right, could be a $2 million listing. So send them a note right away. Don't let any time go by. And then send a note to the person that referred the referrer, which is something most people don't do that I always did. So the example is, if my friend the painter referred me to a new potential listing, I sent him a note and a gift. And then whoever referred me to that painter, whoever introduced me to that painter, so I went 1 level down, let's say his name was Pasquale, referred me to the painter, I would keep him in the loop as well. So I'd go 1 level down on the referral. So I was always touching at least 2 people. So you have to train people to send you the referral. So you have to treat the referral as good or even better than the actual client, because the client may only buy from you once. A good source of referrals might give you 3 deals a year. Over 10 years, they've given you 30 deals. And one of the most important things too, which I think people do a bad job, keep people abreast of what's going on. If somebody refers you a listing lead and you never say anything to them, you're never going to get another lead from them. Even if you wait till the closing, you may never. So a month into the deal, a week into the deal, or whenever it is, hey, I had an appointment with those people you referred me to. They're such nice people, send them a note. Then when it goes under contract, send them a note. Then when it closes, keep them abreast. And if that doesn't make sense to you, think when you give a great lead, I don't know, to somebody to get a $30,000 roof put on their house, and the roofer never tells you if the deal got done or not. You're annoyed. You want to know, like, did that turn into something? Then of course, send another gift when the deal closes, and categorize people, by A's, B's, and C's, or however you want to do it. And your very best people, be willing to spend money on them, take them to a Giant game, go back to that list of everything you know about them. If they're favorite, if they love Broadway, take them to a Broadway show or send them to a Broadway show. Somebody who's going to give you 3 deals a year that's going to make you $30,000 a year is worth a $300 referral present. So here's the leverage part. To succeed really big in real estate, you need a team. I know that's not going to be popular, or at least a great assistant. Otherwise, you're just trading your time, your hours for money. No one that's truly wealthy does this. A good agent with leverage will make 5 times more than a neurosurgeon with no leverage. No matter how good you are, you eventually run out of hours. So these people who say, my clients only want to deal with me, they only love me, I don't want to give up control. Eventually, when you get big, you can't work any more hours. Then what do? Either you say, I'm going to shortchange my family, or you say, I'm just going to have to make less money. The better answer is, succeed through others. Spend a lot of time learning about how to build teams, hiring great people, and then, you're earning money while you sleep. You can be out at your kid's baseball game and your buyer's agent is closing a deal for you. So I really think if you're serious about this business, now, if you want to do $10 million a year, which is a lot of money, you can do that as a solo agent. But if you start wanting to do 20, 30, 50, 100 million, you're going to drive yourself crazy if you try to do it alone. That's when the real skill that blows up your business is learning how to succeed through other people. This I threw in there, I just saw it. If you can't have a client party now, these are some instructions for how to have a virtual client party. I won't go into it. I've never done it, but it actually sounds pretty cool. And then the summary, what would I do? I would spend 30 minutes every day learning something. And I've already covered that. I'd work on my people skills. A lot of you have great people skills. Surprisingly enough, some of you that are super successful don't have great people skills. And I imagine, if you're a $20 million agent that, complains a lot and has poor people skills, you'd be a $40 million agent if you read How to Win Friends and Influence People. If you're a $40 million agent, but you don't lead generate, you'd be an $80 million agent if you lead generated. So I would, work up to 3 hours of lead gen every day. And if you're not doing any, start with 60 minutes. Keep doing it until you generate so many leads that you need an assistant, basically. Focus on working by referral. Use the tips that I talked about. You only need a handful of A-level referrers to build a big business. And again, this is the easiest, most rewarding way to do business. And you can, there are guys who've built $200 million business doing nothing by referral. And I've learned a lot from them at Family Reunion. And once you get to the point, that you're ready to build teams, the thing I would recommend is reading everything by Patrick Lencioni, who's, sort of my guru and I think the best guy in real estate. So that is, I think, the end of my presentation. Anybody have any questions?
Al, can I just say something?
Sure.
It's Jeannie Williams. Thank you so much for sharing all that. I found it very enlightening. And again, I'm in the business a long time. I think everything you talked about isn't for everybody, but like 2 of the things that really stood out for me were hand addressing letters to people. Mm-hmm. I totally agree. I think that really stands out. They're going to want to open it and probably pick up the phone and call you and thank you. And then the confession letter, I really, really like that a lot because it is hard to keep up with everybody.
Yeah. I've never had anybody say, oh, you flat left me for 3 years. I want nothing to do with you. People are always happy to hear from you. If they liked you 3 years ago, they still like you today.
Yeah, 100%. But I like the idea of that gave me a great idea to do because it's hard to stay in touch with everybody all the time. So that's what I got out of it. So thank you.
Okay. Well, I'm glad you found some of it helpful. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Al, it's Scott. So I know I put the pressure on you to do this, so I figured I'd say how much I appreciated.
Yeah, the timeline was for you, buddy.
Really appreciated hearing the story. I think my 2 big takeaways is that I've had How to Win Friends and Influence People sitting on my bookshelf for probably about 3 or 4 years now. Gonna go pick it up and start reading it finally. And to Jeannie's point, I think the confession letter, one of the most impactful things that I've done during this downtime and transitioning back into my business has been picking up the phone and apologizing to some of my first clients who I literally haven't spoken to in 5-6 years. Had some really impactful conversations.
How did those calls go? Just because I bet there are people think they're hard, but I bet they probably went a lot better than you would think.
Yeah, I was so nervous prior to picking up the phone and calling them because my first client from 2013, I don't think I have spoken to them in 6 years. And we had a great conversation. got to catch up. And then unfortunately, about 2 weeks later, I learned that her father-in-law passed away from the COVID virus. But I just, I'm grateful that I reestablished that connection. So.
Awesome. Well, thank
Yeah.
you. Yeah, this was your presentation, Scott.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just wanted to say as well, I just want to say thanks so much for sharing everything. Some really great ideas. I love the old ideas that you had for connecting with people with your parties and things. And then I'm definitely looking into virtual stuff as well. I'm thinking about maybe doing a virtual wine tasting myself. So
That's a great idea.
nice to see everybody as well.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for that.
We had a quick question. They wanted to know whether or not you hand wrote the confession letter.
I did not. I mean, that was a long time ago. So, that was when more people were just, mass printing out a bunch of things, folding it out, putting in an envelope. And then I did have somebody handwrite the outside, but handwriting the whole thing is a lot of work. But I guess if you only have a few, it could be worth it. But it's a lot of text. I don't think I've ever written a hand letter like that since sending a letter to my 7th grade girlfriend or something. It's a lot to handwrite. Any other questions?
I think everyone's very appreciative.
All right, cool. Somebody's asking for a contact number. I don't know if that's for me or for somebody else.
I'm thinking it might be for you, but I don't know who it is because it says iPhone, so I'm not sure.
Oh, my old friend iPhone. I'll send it to him.
There's a question about unemployment. Any
Right.
word on unemployment?
What's that? Any word on
Any
unemployment?
word on unemployment? Yeah.
I do not. I do. Patrick Harrington is the guy for that. If he doesn't know, then Dean Simonidi. He can refer you to Dean Simonides, who can definitely help with that kind of stuff. I apologize. I don't know the answer to that.
Yeah. And then just a lot of requests for this PowerPoint.
Okay. All right. I'll send. I'll probably just send the PowerPoint to your team leaders and ask them to send it out to their market centers. And I'll do that as soon as we hang. All right. Great.
Okay.
You ready to wrap it up?
Al, can I ask one question?
You can ask questions.
I have a question, Al. So if you would put a percentage on the amount of money that you put back into the business, is there like a ratio that you're using to fund the client parties or the extra expenses?
Most of this stuff was pre-KW, so if I was smart, I would have been a lot smarter with that. But I will tell you, the first few months of the business, I had left a pretty good job and I had some money saved, and I sold some stock. In my first 3 months of the business, I was taking out full-page ads. I don't think I did a billboard, but I did something in a shopping center. I spent probably $100,000 on the kind of stuff I say not to do. And I didn't get one lead.
Okay.
I didn't get one lead from any of it. And then I would say, my working by referral, cost me, I don't know, thousands of dollars, not tens of thousands of dollars, per year. And it got me so much of a return, on the money that it was crazy. And so then I just stopped. I didn't do advertising, and everybody was talking about, I got to be in the Redwood News. I got to get my face out there. People that were spending $500 for a quarter page, whatever they were spending, like for $500, that was my budget for mailings for the year, and it worked a lot better. And it's more fun. It's just when you call people that don't know you, even if you run a newspaper ad and a guy calls you that you don't know, it's still not as fun. When you're calling somebody that already knows you and likes you, it's such an easier sale. And then when you go and you're not competing, there's not, oh, I'm interviewing 4 other people. There's no pressure on the commission. It's much easier to get the listing. I was getting like 95% of my listings, not because I was so good at it, but because almost every time I was the only guy they were talking to,
Diane Goodwin has her hand raised. So I can unmute you if you want to ask your question.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, great. All right. This is about my listing that I have active.
Okay.
And
Which one?
280 Van Nostrand Avenue in Englewood.
I know it. Well,
Yeah, I have 2 on that street.
the other
Yeah.
one.
It's great. So this house is having activity now. This is like 3 showings, and Coldwell Banker wants to bring their own disclosure. I talked to Edward about this, but they want to bring their own disclosure.
All of a sudden it flashed to Randy, and he was the guy I was going to ask anyway. So great.
They want to bring their own disclosure. And I've talked to the broker at Caldwell, and she says that they're not using NJR because nobody knows if they have COVID or not. And so we're going back and forth.
You have a seller. Did the seller sign the COVID disclosure?
Yeah, they signed the NJR. Yeah.
Okay, so I don't want to get into the experts on this are Joanne and the brokers, but if you have the seller who's the only one that's our client signed the waiver, and then the people representing the buyer have their own, I guess that seems okay with me because they both signed one, and the one that's our client signed ours. Randy, though?
The thing is that they won't sign ours. The buyer won't sign ours.
But is it okay, Randy, if the seller signs ours and the buyer signs their own?
Can you hear me out?
Yep.
Yep. No, I think that's good. As long as we keep it on file, I think that serves the purpose that everybody disclose whatever was the matter with them or not a matter with them. I think you're good. I'd keep everybody's in DocuSign or the loop. You're good. I'm comfortable with it. What do you think, Al?
Yeah, it sounds okay to me.
But here's something too. In Ohio, when someone didn't sign a CIS, we would just write on the top, buyer acknowledges, buyer refused to sign.
Yeah.
Do we put it on each for each showing? If the buyer refuses to sign, we just write on the top, buyer refuses to sign?
I'm not sure.
Just leave it alone.
Which market center are you in?
Refuse to sign.
Portly.
I would just check with Edward. He
Okay.
would know best.
Okay.
And if you can't get an answer from Edward, he emailed me and then we'll find an answer for you.
Okay, then I have one more question. I have the other house on Van Nostrand, 260. It's under contract. And
Congratulations.
it's set to close, but it's not going to close because the buyer, it's as is. The buyer has to do walkthrough. He lives in New York City, and he's holding to the stay at home.
One of the clients, she hasn't responded back to me, but I can give you their info.
We mute G.
I'm sorry.
You add them.
Good.
Okay, so it's about to close, and then
Yes, it can close, but the buyer has to do a walkthrough. And the buyer says that he's waiting till next week to see if New York City lifts their stay at home. Now, I figured that the lawyers will just figure it all out.
I'm sure they will. You mean he's saying he can't leave to even come to the closing?
Yeah, he can't. No, he can't go do the walkthrough. I offered him virtual tour before, but that's like a problem because I want to close it. We've been waiting, and then I
don't want to tell someone to break the law, but I don't know.
Al, I think in New York, you are allowed to do a walkthrough. You can't show property.
But the house is in New Jersey, right?
The house in New Jersey?
The house is in New Jersey. He's a youngish guy with a family. He doesn't want to leave his house because he doesn't want to. I mean, he's got a business for 25 years. He does this all the time, buy and sell. He doesn't want to leave his house because he's afraid that he's going to get the virus.
I mean, I guess your only 2 options are try to talk him into coming to the walkthrough or talk to the attorneys and see if they can push it back until he can, or
would he be
close without doing a walkthrough and put some money in escrow.
Would he do the walkthrough by himself?
You don't have to
open the door and he can go in the property by himself.
Oh, he absolutely can.
How about
Nothing's
that?
changed with the house anyway. I know that.
Well,
It's an as is. Also, it's as is.
For himself, for the mask and gloves, and you could wait outside.
Can you do a visual walkthrough for him?
That's what I asked him, but then I thought, well, what if he needs to see something, or what if he needs to do something because he's going to gut the place?
Can you walk through?
I was going to gut it.
He's an investor. I don't know. It's like crazy.
Can you walk through alone?
I think he walks through a good idea.
I just felt like he was maybe, I don't know if he's really like afraid of the COVID or if it's just he was trying to push it off because he had two hotels that are not running now too, maybe financial.
All right.
Okay.
I think you answered it, that the attorneys will deal with it.
Okay. Well, thanks for asking. I'm sorry we didn't have an exact
No,
answer.
it's okay.
Jenny,
We
you
need to
have a
wrap up
question?
soon, but if there's one or two more questions, great. If not, we can just wrap it up.
Jenny has her hand raised. I think you're not
Yeah.
muted. So you're
Yes. Okay, thank you. When you did those client events and you had all the margarita machines and chairs and tables, where did you store everything?
In my garage and in Pam's garage.
And it all fit?
Yeah.
Wow.
The
Okay.
margarita machines are just tabletop things, you know.
Right.
They're like, I don't know if you can see me. They're, you know.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
I don't put my cars in my garage, so I had two full sides
Right.
of the garage.
Well, if you don't use the garages for cars, then yeah, I guess so.
Yeah. Yeah, that worked great. That was our best thing because it was just something, and you know, people are always like, well, I don't want to call and bug my client, but when you're calling like, hey, it's graduation time. Do you need any of this stuff, or do any of your friends? Everybody always had a friend or somebody who was having an event, and then people would just start calling us for random events. It's my mother-in-law's 80th birthday, and we're gonna have barbecue in the yard, but we don't have enough chairs. Can you come over and bring some chairs? Or sometimes they would pick them up, but the more you could do, like I would bring them a lot of times. Just then it was like, oh boy, he's going the extra mile. Coming over on the weekend delivering chairs, and they were even more indebted.
Yep.
All right, cool. Anything else?
Where is all that equipment now?
I still have a lot of it. I gave some of it away. Some of it, it's strewn all over the place.
Okay. So if I need chairs, I can call you.
Yeah, I mean, I have chairs. It's a good question though, because I have a bunch of chairs, but they're not the same ones I used to, because they used to all have stickers for my team's name on them, but I don't have those anymore. It's been a while since I sold real estate. I probably stopped actively selling real estate 8 years ago, so 8, 9 years ago. It's been a while, and I've moved about 3 times since then.
Oh boy. All right.
Great.
All right. Anything else? All right. Well, thanks everybody. I really appreciate you taking the time to sit through my presentation.
Thanks, Al.
Thank you.
Have a great day. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Al.
All right, guys, have fun.
Thanks.